Hey, welcome to Hardly Tech. Today we're checking out Wildlander, a mod overhaul for Skyrim Special Edition. And when I say overhaul, I mean overhaul. If it's in this game, they've probably changed it. There are core mods, combat mods, survival mods, crafting mods, user interface overhaul completely. The economy has been changed and the way that money works is completely different. Crime has changed. Crime. The way you commit crimes is changed. It's different. It's not the same crime, it's new crime with a new coat of paint. The way that you join and interact with factions has changed. The magic system has been completely changed. Transportation? You want to fast travel? Ha 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 ha! Well, isn't that cute? Followers and the way that they interact with the world is improved, meaning walking through traps, not such a huge problem anymore. Still, watch your rear end. I could go on and on and on about the changes that have been made in this mod, but it's just way too much to cover in this short amount of time. So I recommend you head over to wildlandermod.com and you give this team a big heaping of love because they've put a ton of work in getting this mod pack all put together and running smooth. To say that this mod pack is jam-packed with mods would be an understatement. There are over 500 mods here. There are nearly 600 to be honest. Installing this mod pack isn't super hard, especially if you have a Nexus Mods account, a paid account I mean. If you don't, then you have to install each mod one by one, painstakingly, over around 8 hours. That's how long it took me anyways. But hey, it's well worth it in my opinion, especially if you're tired of the same old from Skyrim. I chose this mod pack because I had spent some time installing my own mods individually using the Vortex installer, and everything was fine, but this mod pack is far more comprehensive of an installation experience than I was able to accomplish on my own. Plus, this mod pack ensures that all of the mods that are in this mod pack work together correctly, which I did have some redundancies and programs kind of writing over each other and not working correctly. So this takes care of all of that kind of guesswork, which I really appreciate. I'd love to be able to tell you that I did all these mods and installed them myself without any help, but you know what? There's no shame in getting help, especially for this game. There are too many bugs that need fixing, and this mod pack helps take care of that too. Alright, enough stroking this mod pack's ego, let's get down to brass tacks. We're all here for performance, right? Well, I'm not going to do like I do on my reviews and go through every segment of video and talk about performance at every resolution. I'm going to do it a little different. A bit more like my emulator videos where I discuss how performance was for me in certain scenarios with certain settings on, and then when I'm done talking, I'm just going to let the rest of the video play so you can all see it for yourself. Alright? Sound good? Great, let's do it. So, right up front, I'm going to tell you that at 1080p, this RTX 3060 12GB does pretty well across all game settings. I would stick to 1080p on this GPU if I were you. 1440p is doable if you're willing to run settings around medium or so. Anything higher than that and you're just pushing too much. This GPU just can't handle that extra load. And 4K is basically a no-go unless you're okay with playing with settings on low or with the shaders off completely and playing at about 30 FPS. To me, that's just not acceptable, but if you don't mind it, then go for it. Have fun. Temps, as you'd expect, are very good on this tiny GPU. Even with only one fan on that thing, it runs like cool as a cucumber. So many cucumbers, so many cools. And in case you're wondering, yes, I'm running my custom fan curve, 30 Celsius at 40% fan speed up to 70 Celsius at 100% fan speed. And as per usual, this thing is nearly dead silent. So just like even in the unmodded game, being in like caverns or in caves or in town and stuff, your performance is going to be better than out in the overworld. So performance is definitely pretty good even at 1440p with medium to high settings if you're like inside buildings or in caves. But once you get out into the overworld, your frame rate's going to be cut basically in half. Roaming through the overworld, 1080p does pretty dang well even with maxed out settings. Like I said, it's not quite a locked 60, but that's okay. It's still pretty smooth. Most of the interactions are based on the frame rate in the game anyways, so anything below 60 is going to run just fine. It's only once you get over 60 FPS that this engine has a lot of trouble. This mod pack, just like Vanilla Skyrim, is V-synced by default. There's no way around it really. I mean, you can force it off, but the physics interactions and the timescale for the world will be thrown off if you're running over 60 FPS, so I just recommend leaving VSync on. So the way that I have this structured, I'm running 1080p, 1440p, and 4K simultaneously, but I'm using the same graphics settings for each of these segments. The first test is in town with 1080, 1440, and 4K side by side, and the first settings are low graphics and low shaders. The next segment is medium graphics, medium shaders, and then the shaders go from medium to ultra. I don't know why, but that's just how it is. So the last segment is high graphics, ultra shaders. Graphics seems to control things like level of detail, the load distance for distance objects, trees, grass, how far out characters load, items, basically all of the world elements that you would see, and the character interactions. This has a bigger overall performance impact than the shaders themselves do. Shaders controls like the depth of the lighting, how accurate and how detailed the shadows are, certain on-screen effects for like magic and interactions. At 1080p, you can get away with an almost 60 FPS locked experience with ultra shaders and high graphics. You could try ultra graphics, but it's just too much of a hit in my opinion, and you don't gain a ton versus high. Even overclocking didn't quite lock the FPS to 60, but it was very, very close, and I think if you don't have a frame counter on, you probably wouldn't really notice, to be honest. You'll definitely notice the bigger hitches that happen once in a while, but the smaller, little inconsistent ones I don't think would be so jarring. At 1440p, I definitely recommend staying at medium graphics and below. It's just too much for this card to handle. You can probably turn shaders up to high if you don't mind that mid to low 50 FPS range experience, but again, pick your poison. And at 4K, it's just, it's bad. It's not great. It's not like the worst ever. I mean, but I don't want to play with low graphics and low shaders. It just doesn't look good. There's also a bit of a visual glitch when you play with graphics on low. Shaders don't really seem to affect it no matter what setting you use. There's like this shadow flickering on buildings and trees and objects and such, which I'm sure you've seen just watching the video. It's really jarring, so I recommend at least playing with graphics on medium. It's kind of the sweet spot, to be honest. Shaders you can kind of get away with playing on low if you really want that extra performance. Medium and ultra really do look better, but again, this still looks better than regular Skyrim, so I don't really think it's a loss to play on low. As far as VRAM usage, I definitely recommend playing this mod with a GPU that has at least 8 GB of VRAM. There are plenty of instances in this game where even at 1080p, 8 GB isn't enough, so I feel like 8 GB should be the bare minimum. Too many mods pulling too much information, and you're definitely going to get a performance hit if you don't have at least that much. Now the 3060 isn't a super powerful GPU, I think we all know that, but it is a very good mainstream, low power consumption GPU. And this is doing just fine, I think. It'd be great if this could do 1440p maxed out, but it's just too much. If it makes anybody feel better, even the RX 6750 XT that I reviewed, I played a little bit with this mod on it, and it wasn't enough. It's still not powerful enough to run this at 1440p with ultra, or even like high graphics and ultra shaders. As you've probably guessed, Combaaat is going to cause the biggest drops in performance, even at 1080p. All the extra lighting and shading effects, all of the on-screen particle effects and whatnot are going to cause a lot more pull on your GPU than just walking around in the forest or through town and whatnot. It's not too bad though, all things considered. Performance is still pretty good. The dips aren't nearly as bad as I thought they would have been for a mod pack this large and that has so many graphics mods installed. Everything seems to play pretty well, and I have to say I'm pretty happy with this mod pack. If you've never tried it, I say give it a go. The download can be kinda long, but again, if you're tired of the same old vanilla Skyrim, then give this a chance. It's well worth it. It's a completely different experience. But if this mod pack isn't quite your style, you're wanting something a little bit lighter, I'm also going to be doing a video with Skyrim Vanilla Edition, non-special edition. So stay tuned for that. So here at the end of the video, I've got a few different graphic settings that I'm trying out just to show what performance is like using different shader options and different graphics options. We're starting off with 1080p, and on the left we've got medium graphics with ultra shaders. In the middle we've got high graphics with medium shaders, and on the right we've got ultra graphics with medium shaders. As you can see, the performance impact with graphic settings turned up actually has more of an impact than the shaders themselves. Next up we have 1440p, and on the left we've got low graphics. Blah, ew. and medium shaders. In the middle, we've got medium graphics with low shaders, which doesn't look too bad to be honest. And on the right, we've got medium graphics with medium shaders. Kind of like the sweet spot, I think. All in all, my recommendation for 1080p is to play with high graphics and ultra or high shaders, depending on just how smooth you want the experience. And if you're going to play at 1440p, I'd settle on medium graphics with medium shaders. Maybe low shaders, but I think the extra kick up from the graphic settings really does help, even though you lose a few FPS here and there. Thank you all for watching, I really appreciate it. If you liked this video, if you found it useful, hit that like button and subscribe! Share this around, tell people about it, help me spread the word about my channel, I'd really appreciate it. I gotta beat that algorithm somehow, and all of the help you've been giving me has really been helping. I really appreciate it. With all that said, check me out over on Twitter at hardly_tech. If you want to become a patron and support the channel directly, head over to Hardly Tech on Patreon. Thank you all again. I hope to see you on the next video. Force. A bug. I swallowed a bug.
Hand over your valuables, or I'll gut you like a fish. Yes, actually. You look like you're lousy with gold. I'm not gonna ask again. You're as good as dead.